Yeah, touch and go for a second round of negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. Donald Trump saying that the talks are happening. J.D. Vance earlier reported by U.S. media to already be en route to Islamabad. That, though, has since been qualified. He's due to leave for Islamabad. Here you can see the chargé d'affaires, the U.S. ambassador, acting ambassador, in the company of the Pakistani interior minister as they prepare those talks. The Iranians remaining non-committal about whether or not they'll attend after the seizing of an Iranian container ship by the Americans off Oman and their line of blockade on Sunday. Now, crucial to those talks, a second ceasefire in the one that's gone into effect in Lebanon. It's holding, albeit precariously, after a weekend that saw Israel continue to bulldoze buildings in Hezbollah strongholds and fly planes and drones in the skies above. Lebanon's President Joseph Aoun saying that there will be negotiations taking place in Washington later this week. He's appointed a former ambassador to the U.S., Simon Karam, as his envoy for those negotiations. We can go now to Beirut and Ghassan Salamé, author, former diplomat, advisor to the UN Secretary General. Thank you so much for being with us here on France 24.
Thank you for inviting me.
First off, your reaction to Hezbollah stating that it won't accept whatever comes out of the talks in Washington.
Well, there is nothing new in that. In fact, Hezbollah has already stated its opposition to direct negotiations. I am compelled to remind everybody that this country, despite 50 years of civil war, invasions, foreign interference, etc., has kept two things that are precious to the country's DNA. That's political pluralism and freedom of expression. Therefore, everybody can be in support of the negotiations to come or critical of these negotiations. This is something that is still open in Lebanon, and fortunately so, that the freedom of expression, the political pluralism have been preserved despite everything. Now the government is willing to go into these negotiations. The president has taken, in fact, the initiative to initiate these negotiations already 3 months ago, long before the war has erupted in early March. And the idea here was that the arrangements of November 2024 that ended the penultimate war, these arrangements were not respected, and that the Israelis have committed more than 15,000 violations of these arrangements. So, desperate to see these arrangements being implemented, the president took the initiative of calling for negotiations. For many weeks, nothing happened on the other side, and then 10 days, 15 days ago, under American pressure, the Israelis ended up accepting that offer from the Lebanese president. And we have had in first session more on logistics than on substance in Washington last Tuesday, and we'll have another one 2 days from now on Thursday, with a ceasefire that is normally valid until the 27th of April. What we would like to see now, in parallel to this second session of talks in Washington, is that first, the ceasefire is better respected, especially by the Israeli side, who bombed today a cafe near the Litani River and has gone beyond any limit in demolishing houses and schools and etc. in the area he's in control of. And we want an extension beyond April the 27th, because we don't believe that when the time for the substantial negotiation comes, which is probably in a week or 2 weeks from now, that these negotiations should take place while the country keeps being bombed.
So, as you point out, since February the 28th, Lebanon's president repeatedly calling for negotiations, pressing that were the French. Now, the Americans getting involved, and the French are sidelined. Are the stars aligned for a major breakthrough?
Well, the French have been sidelined, not in implementation of Lebanese wishes. Lebanon has had the French backing in very somber times in the past few weeks and months. And therefore, we would like the French to remain involved in the process, because there were times where the French were almost the only country that was not obsessed with what was happening in the Gulf, going so far as forgetting what was happening in Lebanon. Therefore, we are grateful for the French for the support we got from them during these somber days. And we would like this to continue to be the case. We know that the Israelis are not of that opinion, but we certainly will not change our opinion. And we hope that the Israelis come to recognize that a country with such an old relationship with Lebanon, a country that has contributed so much to the UNIFIL in South Lebanon, to the UN force in South Lebanon, going as far as losing one other soldier 2 days ago who was killed in South Lebanon in the Ghandouriya village, that a country like that deserves to remain part of the negotiation once the day they start.
Yeah, and so now, what would a breakthrough look like for you? What is it you would like to see happen, realistically speaking?
Well, realistically, we need to go from these logistic talks we are having with the Israeli into real negotiation on substance. And that day, it is usual in any negotiation that each of the two belligerents comes with the list of the items he would like to see on the negotiating agenda. The Lebanese know what they want from these negotiations. We want an Israeli withdrawal from South Lebanon. We want a confirmation of the agreement we have had with the Israelis on the demarcation of our sea borders. We want the demarcation of the land borders. We certainly want freeing of our prisoners in Israeli jails. And we want the international law applied to the question of rivers flowing from Lebanon. So we clearly need what we want. It is expected that the other side comes with its own list of items he would like to see in the agenda. And we can imagine this from the statements we keep hearing from Israeli ministers left and right, or more exactly, right and right.
Well, top of their list is, of course, top of their list. That list would be disarming Hezbollah, of course.
I would not be surprised that this would be certainly on the list, and possibly other things. We are hearing some things that are non-starters for us. I hope the Israeli delegation will not come with ideas like having settlements being built, Israeli settlements being built in Lebanon, or keeping a security zone they define, or not withdrawing from South Lebanon. So there are things we are expecting from the other side based on what they say in public. And it would be the mediator, that is the American mediator's role, to try and reconcile probably very different items on the agenda, and to come with an agenda in which both sides see that their vital demands have been taken into consideration. This will take some time, I believe. It will not be settled from the first session.
In 2005, Ghassan Salamé, you wrote a book entitled When America Remakes the World. It was a book written just after the invasion of Iraq, when the feeling in Washington was that of neoconservatism, exporting U.S. values abroad. Today, is the Trump administration's policy when it comes to Lebanon giving Israel what it wants?
Well, from what I know, what Mr. Rubio had to say during the first meeting, he decided to inaugurate the talks between Israel and Lebanon himself, and he was present during the 2 hours of the talks. What I know from our people in that meeting is that Mr. Rubio truly played the role of a mediator. In the Gulf, you know, the United States is belligerent, and the mediator is the Pakistani. In Lebanon, the two belligerents are Lebanon and Israel, and America is playing a completely different role, not of belligerent, but of a mediator. We know that this mediator could be biased towards Israel. We know that. But we also know that in order to succeed, the mediator needs to be, or to try and be, as equidistant as possible from the two belligerents, us and the Israelis. And that's what we expect from the mediator, the American mediator in this case.
Since February the 28th, how has Beirut changed? How has Lebanon changed? Beyond just, of course, the 1.2 million people displaced, is the country view itself differently?
Well, the country is certainly under the weight of 1 million displaced people. And we in the government are all involved in trying to help them and to find shelters for them and to find food for them. This is our most imminent duty. However, the Lebanese, to be honest with you, are still under the heavy impression of loss after what happened on that day, April the 8th, when in less than 10 minutes, more than 350 people were killed in the capital. And when you wake up in the morning, like today, and have the noise of the drone over your head, you say, oh, I hope this is not the beginning of a new attack. Because these are surveillance drones, but surveillance drones very often are followed by attack drones or by Air Force. That day, April the 8th, 2026, will not be forgotten easily by the Lebanese.
And the 350 killed that day is more than with the port of Beirut explosion in 2020. Nonetheless, do you hold out hope? We've spent most of this discussion talking about trying to find common ground with Israel.
Look, you don't negotiate with your friends. You have nothing to negotiate with your friends. You negotiate normally with your enemies. And in this case, what we want is to negotiate in order to give serenity and prosperity to our fellow countrymen. That's what we are looking for. We know exactly how the military balance of power is. We know that it is not in our favor. But we also know that our population is ready to accept the principle of putting the country's interest before anything else.
Ghassan Salamé, so many thanks for speaking with us from Beirut.
Thank you.